Hello. So we will continue exploring Bazel, and in the last two videos you saw how to include different libraries, how to define a binary, how to make changes in your program, and what were the benefits of using Bazel. And today I'll show you how to include a test file in your program, because let's say if you're building a project, you need to write unit tests and all other things. Then it's very easy to have a test file, and it's very easy to include with Bazel. It's as simple as having an include folder here. So as you can see that within my repository called hello, I have made another subfolder called test, and within that I have a file called test.cpp, which has a very basic declaration of a test. So I need to include my headers. So I have included both of my header files. I need to include this Google test header, because the unit tests that I'll be writing, or that I have worked with till now, it's mostly based on the G-test framework. So I think it's the easiest to work with. So I have also included this G-test header file, and I have a very basic test here which just checks if 1 is equal to 1. It's a basic test. You can modify it later for different applications. It is just to show you how to include this test file in your program. So we will go ahead, and before we proceed, I would like to tell you that there is this file called Bazel.Bazel version, which basically sets the Bazel version that I'll use for this project. And here I am using 8.4.0. Now beforehand I was using 9.1.1, but there are some compatibility issues of GoogleTest with the latest version. So I just set this version to 8.4.0, and this is very easy to do because I installed Bazel using Basilisk. So I can just specify which version I want, and it would set that particular version for me. So first of all, to start with, we go to our module.bazel file, and remember that we have already included a Bazel dependency. So in a similar way, we need to include another dependency on Google Test. So let me just write this here. The dependency is named Google Test, and the version is 1.17.0. Oh, 0 does not work. Yeah. So yeah, like, this is the version that is compatible. You don't need to think a lot about it. If you compile a program and this version is not compatible, you'll see an error and just change it to that particular version. So you don't need to do anything else here. It's just an administrative kind of thing. Now, coming to our build.bazel file, this is where we will focus a lot. So the way we discuss CC library and CC binary, there is another rule called CC test to include our test files. So I'll just go ahead and include that particular rule called CC test. So using CC test, we can define our test files. We can uh, say which files they depend on, which binaries they depend on, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's go here, CC test, and yeah, we keep the same format as the other CC binary and CC library. So now we have to name our test, and I'll just name it test01 just for the sake of simplicity, nothing too complicated here. Same as CC library, we need, or CC binary, we need to include the source file for tests. So I'll just include this here, test/test.cpp. Similar to what we have done before, there's nothing new, and don't forget the brackets. Sorry for that. Never ever forget the brackets and a comma. Okay, and then we will have our includes, attribute, so it includes the folder called test, another one here, and now the most important part. So CC test definition depends on a few things, right? What does it depend on? I'll show you. So first and foremost, it does depend on the hello world library that we have, right? Because this is our source code, this is what we want to test with this test file. So it depends on hello world, and it also depends on add, the library that we created to add two numbers. It depends on that. What else does it depend on? So now, since we are using the Google test framework, so it has to depend on the frameworks provided by Google test. How do we do that? We write at Google test. I hope you can see this. And then gtest score main. So basically what we are telling, the way we are defining is that since, and don't forget that we already have this dependency defined here. So now we say that our CC test depends on the framework provided by Google test within this folder, within this repository, and that framework is gtest underscore main. So our test file depends on that. That is all we need to do here. We have defined everything. We have our test.cpp file ready. So now we go ahead and do this Bazel test hello colon test01. It's very simple. It's the same way we used to build our files. Instead of build, we have test here, and the test is called test01. So we just run it, and since I'm running it for the first time, you might see here that the Bazel build files are missing. So it would take a lot of time, because now test will compile all the binaries first, and then, sorry, I had to cut all of that out because it took a really long time to run. But as you can see here that it has compiled everything, and everything has been built successfully, and the test has also passed. So again, it's a very simple tool, and it's very easy to have a test file as well included with your source code and everything. And now you can just go ahead, and since remember that we have also included this binary called sorry, the library called add. So now we can go ahead and modify our test file to include to test that particular function, and let's see how that goes. So I can just write this here, or maybe instead of writing I can just copy this whole thing, and or maybe that would not be the best thing to do. Maybe I can just do this. I can do int a equals 3 comma b equals 2, and I'll put a semicolon. Yes, this is okay. And then int result equals add a comma b colon, and then expect eq result comma, and since if we add 3 and 2 we should get 5, so then result comma 5. Yes, and that is okay. Let me just remove this for a while. Okay, so what I just did is that I want to now test whether my add function works or not. So I have declared two variables, simple, and the result should be I get the result by adding these two variables, and I'm expecting that the result should be equal to 5, right? So let's just go ahead and run this file again, and let's run the test and let's see if the test passes or not. Okay, there is an add identifier not found. Okay, what? Sorry, so the function name is add to num. I just wrote add here. So let me modify this. Okay, add to num. This is the function. Yeah. The test should run now. Mm, yes, and now the test passes. As you can see here, the test has passed, which means our function is working exactly how we expected it to, and the test file is also testing it. So this is how you can add a test file to your project if you need to write, and now you can just use this file to write as many unit tests as you want, and it is really easy and really handy to add it into your project using the CC test rule. So I hope you got something out of this video, and we will see each other in the next one. If you have any suggestions, any comments, please leave them below and let me know if you would like to learn anything else. If you are exploring some other tool or some other program, it would be really cool to hear from you. Thank you so much, and you would find the entire playlist linked in the description, so please feel free to check it out. Thank you.